I think we have two objectives for SPFUSA. The first one is to establish the premier think tank for U.S.-Japan relations. There are many think tanks in the United States that cover all of Asia or the world, but I think the relationship needs a think tank that works just on U.S.-Japan relations, and that's our mission at SPFUSA. The other thing is to educate Americans, both the public and the people in Washington, influential people, about the value of the alliance, because I think that the support for the U.S.-Japan alliance in the United States needs to be renewed, especially with the younger generation. So that's the second part of our mission, and it's very exciting to be part of the SPF family, because SPF is established here in Tokyo, very strong, very well-known, very effective organization. But in the United States, I think we can grow it and be a good part of the organization. I'd say there are two or three aspects to it. Number one is conducting research on the relationship, and although we only have a very small staff right now, we are looking to hire scholars in the area in order to do research on different aspects of the relationship. And the parts of it, I think, are the security relationship, which of course is very much a dynamic situation right now. The subject of energy is a big subject that I think could use research. There are a lot of changes going on in Japan and in the United States. How do we work together? Other aspects are the effects of Abenomics on commercial relations with the United States. So I think we'll do research on those areas and publish the results. Then when we have recommendations on how to improve the relationship, then the job is to get those relationships into the people who make the decisions, whether they are in Washington or whether they are in Tokyo or New York or Osaka, and try to have some influence on the relationship. You know, all of us who have served in government know that when you're in one of those jobs, it's very, very busy. You have crises and day-to-day concerns. So sometimes you don't have so much time to sit back and look at the big picture and think. So the function of think tanks is to try to do some of that research, some of that thinking, and then feed those results back into the decision makers of the two countries to make things better. And then on the education front, things like conferences, things like people-to-people exchanges, things like having a good digital presence, website, Twitter, Facebook, all of the social media that are available, just to widen the understanding within the United States of the importance of our relationship with Japan. So those are some of the big elements that we're thinking about right now. The private sectors, nonprofits, and others are playing a more and more important role in the international relations of many countries. In the United States, for example, organizations like the Gates Foundation in many cases is more active, has higher funding, more activity in international health and education issues than does the U.S. government. SPFUSA right now certainly does not have the financial resources or the human resources of some of the big foundations, but I think we can play a leverage role to get the foundations in the United States that have important missions, foundations here in Tokyo like Nippon Foundation and others, to work on common problems. I think many different combinations, government-private, private-private, government-government. I mean, there are a lot of different possibilities now, and I don't think we should restrict ourselves to just a single model as we try to make the world a better place. And I think that's the underlying thing of Japan and the United States. I mean, here we have the biggest country in the world, we have the third biggest by economy, both democracies, both have the same ideas for the world. We should be working together on many of these important issues. Well, of course, they've met several times before, which is good. So they have a certain relationship already, and I think that I don't think there's anything that has to be fixed in the American-Japan relationship. There's not a huge split or a fracture the way there is, but I think it needs to be revived and to be emphasized and to be raised in importance. So that would be my hope for the summit meeting with, and for President Obama's visit. Of course, everybody will ask about China. You know, what will they say about China? And I think they both have the same approach ultimately, which is that China needs to join into the international community in a positive way. And as China becomes more powerful and more influential, it has to assume some of the responsibilities of being powerful. It cannot just take things that China wants. It has to have a role in making the whole system work. And I hope that Prime Minister and our President can talk in those terms, not just in terms of how do we deal with China. And then there are a huge number of common issues that Japan and the United States can assert real leadership in. Japan has been an environmental leader, some of the best standards in the world. I remember when Prime Minister Obuchi was convening the G8 summit, he made the green summit, the environment, the importance. That's very important to President Obama, of course, and he's taken a number of initiatives there. So I hope that area that they can work on. I hope they can talk about some of these third problems. It's not just Japan, U.S., it's not just Japan and U.S., China, but it's how do we improve things in other parts of the world, whether they be places like Myanmar, or Africa, places like Africa. Another big one is the area of course, of counterproliferation, nuclear weapons, nuclear materials. And at the big summit in Europe just a month ago, there was an announcement about Japan's handling of plutonium coming from the reactors and so on. So Japan has a role to play in counterproliferation, and there's a lot of work to do around the world in that area. So I think there will be more topics than there are time for them to work on, but I think the important thing is if the United States and Japan are talking together, decide between themselves what they want to do, and then they go out and take the initiative. That's the big thing. I think the time has passed when the United States decides what it wants to do, and then we go tell Japan, and then Japan joins in. There's got to be much more of a dialogue. Japan is a mature country. It has many good ideas of its own. This needs to be an equal dialogue, and then solving problems together. And if we can bring other countries into that partnership, also China or others, that's very good too. I didn't mention the TPP, which of course is going to be an important topic also, but it's a business. The nice thing about business, it can be win-win. It doesn't have to be win-lose so much. And I think that Japanese businessmen, American businessmen do a lot of business together. And I think that the TPP benefits both countries. High standards, good standards in labor, good standards in environment, good standards in supply chain management. And I think it's in the interest of both countries to make that agreement, and then have others join others whose standards are not quite as high. So it's a big agenda. When I lived here in the 1980s, I learned to speak restaurant Japanese, sushi, tempura, okonomiyaki, all of the important Japanese phrases. But if I'm going to be the chairman of SPFUSA, doing work with Japan, I think I should make an effort to start. It's much better if you start when you're 2 years old, but 67 years old, I can learn a few things. So I would like to start. When I was in college, I learned Russian. That was my language, because at that time they were the enemy and you need to know your enemy. But then I haven't had much use for Russian recently, but I would like to learn another language, and I think a learning language, any language, is important, and you're never too old. So I think I should start.